Welcome to day 2 of the Warwick Economics Summit 2020. My name is Alexandra Keller, and I have the pleasure of being here with Her Excellency Atifete Jahjaga, former President of Kosovo, former Deputy Director of the Kosovo Police, and the founder of the Jahjaga Foundation. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, Savannah. It's my pleasure to be here with you today.
And I want to start off with the fact that, you are the first woman as well as the youngest person to become the president of Kosovo. You have spoken out about the challenges of being a young woman in office, especially the sexism you and your board of advisors have experienced during your mandate. My question is, how did you deal with the sexist remarks of the media and your fellow assembly members? And what advice would you give to other young women in a similar position?
Well, it has not been an easy period, and as you mentioned, I was the first woman head of state in the history of my country, in the history of the entire region of the southeastern part of the Europe, or as we refer to the Western Balkans. And that time when I was elected, I was the youngest head of state to be ever elected, democratically elected in the world. I was only 35 years of age when I was elected as the president of Kosovo. And it has been quite of the challenging this during my entire term as a president. And tell you the truth, even now, almost 4 years after leaving the office, that continues to follow and hunt. And no matter are we in Kosovo, are we in the southeastern part of the Europe, or everywhere around the world, when we speak about the role of the women into the politics and the leadership, that continues to be a challenge. But the way that I have been able to confront them and to be able to rise myself above those challenges, it took me quite a while, but I was able to navigate through this kind of the challenges and try to convert and try to transform this kind of challenges on empowering me more and trying to leave a different legacy for the other women to follow, and especially for the younger generation to follow. Because till 2011, nobody could believe that in Kosovo will be a woman which will be heading the state and will be heading the highest office of the state. And now if you ask the women, and especially the young women of Kosovo, that is something that every single woman of Kosovo spell out, that they want to become the presidents of Kosovo, they want to become the prime ministers of Kosovo. And as a matter of fact, just in the last parliamentary election, we had the first woman candidate for the prime minister's role. And so this is now is a clear signal that it's not something that no women of Kosovo cannot reach it. And so my advice to all of the women in Kosovo and globally, it is that they should believe in themselves. They should believe on their potential, on their capacities, and they should believe on their values. There's nothing in this world that cannot be done if you are really committing yourself and if you invest towards on that what you personally believe in that. And one something that we should always, by all price, all of the leaders, but specifically for us as a women, is that we should never make a compromise for the values that we stand for, because that moment that we make compromise for that, then we don't know what we are standing for. And something that I always also advise the young people and the young generation of women leaders is that we should support each other. They should support each other. I do understand that the competition and aspiration is just a thin line that divides both of those two. But at the end of the day, it's about going to the certain position that usually people are much more alone. But it's much harder when you are alone from your own kind, from your own generation of people, especially the women to the women. And sometimes the women have a tendency to be the biggest enemies of their own kind. The women should be the biggest supporters of their own kind. And I encourage more women to support the other women, because at the end of the day, we are the half of the population of the globe. We are 50% of the population.
Okay. Thank you, that is amazing, and I love how you said that it already resonates in Kosovo that women are starting to believe in themselves because of what you achieved. I'm loving that so much. And despite the fact that you left the political scene in 2016, you are still very much involved in the current issues that Kosovo is facing. And this can be seen through the fact that you launched your foundation in 2018. And I wanted to ask, what are the most pressing issues that the foundation will tackle in the year 2020, and how does it plan on doing that?
Yes, it's true. Despite the fact that I left the office back in 2016, I continue to be very much engaged, and that has been my promise to the people of Kosovo, that I will continue to contribute for the people of Kosovo, for the welfare of our people, and for the future of Kosovo, no matter where I am. That will be my continuous mission, though we are also vested with the constitutional obligation. Despite the fact that we leave the office, we will still have a certain moral obligation for our country and for our people. And I try to use different platforms to do that, to continue to contribute to my country and to my people. And the foundation is one of the those platforms that I'm using that in order to push certain of the issue that I have started even in my office as the President of the Republic of Kosovo, mainly on empowering the women and youth. Jahjaga Foundation, which was established on March of 2018, has 4 pillars. The first pillar is dealing with the women, the second is with youth, the third one is with negative phenomena of our country and the region of the southeastern part of Europe, particularly on the issue of the organized crime, corruption, and all type of the violent extremism. And the fourth pillar is on the building the trust and the reconciliation. For a second, we might think that this is quite complicated structure, but at the same time, it's very simple and it's very much interconnected, because you cannot invest on the half of the population, which are the women, or in the 61% of the population Kosovo, which are the young people under the age of 30. If you do not invest into the negative phenomena, if you don't invest on their education, if you don't invest on their empowerment, and if you don't try to build a different insight on building the trust of the cooperation among all of the community groups, which is the phenomena of Kosovo, because Kosovo is a very multi-ethnic country and the community where all of the communities enjoy equal rights and obligation. And tomorrow Kosovo aspires to become a member state of the European Union. And all of those things that Kosovo has foreseen as the priorities for the development of our country, as are enshrined also within the work of the foundation, within our short-term and the long-term strategies, are in that line of pushing our country towards the EU integration processes and establishing or putting the basis for the long-lasting peace in the southeastern part of Europe.
I love how you are incorporating what you started in your mandate, actually continuing it and bringing it forward. And I feel that sends another message to the people of Kosovo that you're still there, you're still supporting them. And also you have mentioned that you are concentrating on youth because so much of the population of Kosovo is youthful. And I wanted to ask, because a particular issue of Kosovo is their isolation in Europe. And you have mentioned that in your talk, the fact that Kosovo doesn't have visa liberalization in the Schengen area. So, people aren't allowed to freely travel around Europe the way other countries are allowed to. And I wanted to ask, what would visa liberalization mean to the young people of Kosovo?
It will mean a freedom of movement. It will mean feeling equal with the rest of their peers, with any other country within the Europe and the rest of the world. And it's really unfortunate to see that how come that 61% of the population of Kosovo, which are the young people, are not enjoying that basic human rights matter. Because at the end of the day, we are speaking about the human rights matter. Freedom of movement is a human rights matter. We as Kosovo, as institutions of Kosovo, as people of Kosovo, have been always cooperating very closely with all of the international organizations, in this case with the European Union, to fulfill all of the requirements, preconditions, and the homework that we as the country, we need to do it. I cannot say that we were perfect on everything in there, but never the interest left or the will of the people or in the institutions to fulfill all of the preconditions for the visa liberalization. It's by the time that the people of Kosovo should be granted the right of the freedom of movement. Young people of Kosovo, or generally the people of Kosovo in total, they are no threat, an exposed threat, and there's no danger from them towards the European Union. What they want is that they want to travel, to be able to travel to the Europe, to network with their peers, to see how is the rest of the Europe working, to come back and invest on their country with new, fresh ideas, and out of that feeling of being isolated, and at the same time being in the doorstep of the European Union.
Yeah, I agree completely. I feel young people, especially as a young person myself, I also came here from another country, and it's such an amazing privilege. But as you say, it's actually a human right. We're all in Europe, we're all together. But I also wanted to elaborate on that, building on the previous question, because of the fact that Kosovo, is quite isolated because of the lack of visa liberalization. It has experienced a lot of illegal and legal immigration in the last 2 decades. And this had affected its economy as it shrunk its workforce, and some people call it a brain drain. What do you think is the best approach to attract people back to the country and, more importantly, prevent them from leaving?
Yeah. Well, if I may just correct you slightly into that Kosovo, compared with all other countries, had even under the minimum the level of the illegal migration. And that was done back in 2013 and 14, if I'm not wrong. And that was mainly done because many of the Kosovar citizens that has chosen that path to leave the country, they were the victims of certain organized crime groups, which were coordinating closely with some other organized crime groups in Serbia. It ended up, actually there has been a series of the police operation that we were supported by many of the European countries, police organizations together with the Kosovo police, and it ended up that it had arrested over 70 people, and they were mainly from Serbia. And then, because to me it's a kind of like, how come that the one border that was unimaginable to cross it till that moment, which was in the border between Hungary and Serbia, within the night it became quite open and everybody could go across there. And so it was up to that level of the interference in a way that even the police officers from Serbia and others, they were involved into these organized crime groups in order to make the citizens from Kosovo to leave the country. So we were the one that paid the biggest price out of that, despite the fact that they were different organized crime groups organized in order to punish Kosovo indirectly when we speak about the visa liberalization. But luckily Kosovo has reacted very quickly. We have cooperated very quickly with all of the European countries, and we put into the surface the whole of the facts of everything what related to the illegal migration on that. And so you always have this minimum level of the migration that people go from the economic and all the way down to the political reasons, leaving from one country to another. You have also the countries which are within and under the visa liberalization, which are having quite major percentage of the illegal migration and misuse of the visa liberalization process into that. But Kosovo is a totally different question. We are for that to respect all of the rules and requirements when we speak about the visa liberalization. And when you speak about the brain drain, yes, every country faces with a brain drain, but some countries can afford, some countries they do not cannot afford. And Kosovo definitely cannot and will not be able to afford in case we will be facing with a major percentage of the brain drain. So far we had to a certain point, but what pleases me mostly, and I consider that that's why Kosovo, the biggest capital that our country is, that our young people and the young potential that we have in the country is that they do love their country and they want to invest on their country. And the country needs them as well. And so that's why we are trying to find all the ways to empower the young people so they could invest on their country and their future itself.
Okay, it is amazing, and I love that it's just also kind of that the people feel that they can come back to their country and still succeed. And well, you're an amazing example of how you can succeed in your own country.
Absolutely, and we have this recently, actually in this past 20 years after the end of the war, a lot of investment has been done, especially into the education of our young people. Via many, also with the support of many of the countries, for example, with the US State Department funds, with the USAID funds, with the British Council funds, and there are hundreds of students that go for the basic, for the master's and the PhD studies in the top universities around the world, like here in the UK, in Germany, in Austria, in the US, in all of the Ivy League universities, and over 90% of them, they come back to Kosovo and they see their future within the private sector or within the public sector. But it's a totally different question. Are we giving them enough space to be able to explore their potential? No, we are not, and we should be giving that more and more.
Okay, understand. And well, those are impressive figures. The 90% actually are returning. But unfortunately, that is all the time we have today. But thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. It was my pleasure.